Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Excuse me. Were there any questions or comments in regards to the minutes? I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as written.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes from June 8th as written. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Anyone opposed? So moved. The next item on the agenda is the review of the police department budget to date. Chief Cormier is here. Thank you for coming. At our last meeting, you were not here. There were many questions that were asked in regards to the police budget. So now that you are here, we'll ask you first how you think the budget is and where are the trouble spots that you've been noticing in the budget?
I think the hardest part this year for us was vehicle maintenance. That was a challenging one we had to deal with. We had some significant issues with some of the cars as far as transmission, flywheel, some of that stuff that we just didn't expect. The biggest one being one of the cars needed a transmission. So,
Are these on the newer vehicles or older vehicles?
older. One of them was a 2006 purchased in '08, and then one of them was an '06 purchased in '06. But that was I think, probably the line that was the hardest for me. The other one that comes to mind is the part-time wages, but we had a really busy summer. They covered a lot of the home theme, like NASCAR, Hells Angels World Run, the heavy weekends where traffic doubles on Laconia Road. We had extra help out those weekends. And, in past years, we used to have full-time officers out there, but having the part-time officers out there gave us the extra visibility during the high traffic times. But
Are these the new officers that were brought on board to train, or were these some of the holdovers?
no, the new officers.
Weren't all of those former officers somewhere?
Yes, they all came certified. So those are the two lines that I had the highest percentage used so far to date.
What's the average mileage on those older vehicles? When you say older, are you talking in terms of how long they've been in the department, or mileage? What is the mileage on those?
2005 is probably the highest right now with 132. And right behind that, the 4A, which is 121.
What year is that?
2004. And then behind that, the 4B has 106.
Are those the ones that have given you trouble?
The 6C was the one that needed a transmission. That's at
What year is that?
2006. That was purchased in '08. It was 94,000.
That was one of the three that we bought altogether?
It is, yeah. Yeah, there's 3 '06s, but one of them was purchased in '06, so one of the '06s is 2 years older than the other two.
Aren't there 4 '06s?
4, right. 3 marked and 1 unmarked. So the 6A is the oldest. It's actually was purchased in 2006. And that was the one that needed a flywheel and starter. And that was $124,000.
So right now, we have 5 vehicles that are over 100,000 miles. And we have a couple real close. A couple that are close to 100. 3 of them that are close to 100.
We have the 6B and C are close. They're at 92 and 93.
And we used, according to Tim's notes that he gave us we used money from the revolving fund as well as vehicle maintenance in order to provide for some of these repairs.
Revolving fund, I
You know.
know they use towards the newest vehicle.
Towards,
I think what
Oh, that was the
Ted said
purchase.
there,
That was the purchase, not the
He used it
repair.
to purchase, and then he took money out of that line that we had
Right.
for purchasing and moved that into the maintenance line. I think that's what Tim was stating in his statement there.
Oh, it was, yeah.
Right.
That was actually done on some of the electronic stuff that needed to be fixed.
Chief, do you think we have too many cruisers in the fleet? That's why our maintenance line's so high?
I know when we had those 2 down, those days where we had none available, there was a couple days where some emergency calls came in and the lieutenant and I ran out to the lot and they were already using mine. There was really nothing available. So we run into those days where some days we have a couple extra sitting around the lot and then other days you run out there and there's nothing.
And the only reason I ask that is, I watched the selectmen's meeting, and we had the SUV, which was already put out of service and was on the highway department, waiting for the new SUV to come in. 6A was down at our meeting, our June meeting, because of a transmission issue. 6B was down because of a flywheel starter type deal or something that was brought to our attention. They were both out of service. The lieutenant was using your cruiser. You came back and you took your cruiser back to wherever you went back to the schooling and put the department down 4 vehicles at that point. You made the decision to put it down 4 vehicles. And I questioned whether we have too many vehicles, or we're able to go down 4 vehicles and still function. And you made that as an executive decision. I mean, you're the head of the department. You made the decision to take that cruiser out. That put the department down 4 cruisers. In my eyes, I think we have too many cruisers. And I think that's why our maintenance is so high, because we're trying to maintain too big of a fleet. That's the way I look at it. I mean, how else can you look at that?
The prosecutor has to pick up prisoners and take them to court, so he can't use his own vehicle or her own vehicle. We have the same problem with the SRO at times where they have to take an arrest out of the school and transport them to either jail to get the bill for PD, or sometimes transport them home. And detectives, they actually take very good care of theirs, even though they're high mileage. The maintenance on them is very low because you only have one person driving them. The vehicles that typically accrue the most mileage and actually have the higher vehicle maintenance costs are the patrol vehicles. The ones that get used by patrol because you have several different drivers using them. But it only takes, one car at a detail one at court, and a couple had an accident, and next thing you know, you're down to none. And so when I got here, I talked to the captain, and he said that they kind of gone over this over the years and found that 10 was the perfect number. They didn't feel they needed more, but they felt that if they tried to run with less, they would have many days during the year where they wouldn't have one available. If sometimes you'll have 2 down for service, and it might not be overuse, it could just be routine service where you have one in there for brakes and another one going down for oil changes. Well, that drops you down to 8, and if you have detectives out with 2 cars in their work, and that drops you down to 4, and you just don't know what's going to come in during the day. I've looked at it a few times, and 10 seems to be the number where you have 2 or 3 for spares. If one's down for service, or we have a lot of road work, like when we had the water job, you have to put cars out there with light bars. And now it's even more of a DOT requirement, where they're saying they don't want cars out there unless they actually have a light bar on the roof. And so I think that you could run with 8, but you wouldn't have cars left for details, or if a couple cars were down for service, you really wouldn't have any extra to fill in. And so
Well, going off the point you just mentioned, Chief, are the cars being rotated, or the cars being, Officer A, Officer B, Officer C takes 6B, Officer, D and E and F, they take 6C, and, so that way, if you're having a problem with a cruiser, you know it's happening because of these officers, because they're the only ones driving it. You just said that the detectives take good care because they're the only ones driving the cars.
Right.
That drives the point home. Should there be some kind of a schedule where they're not just grabbing whatever cruiser's in the yard, they're grabbing a certain patrol cruiser, and being, there's 3 officers, if they're changing in 3 shifts, they're running that for 24 hours, that same cruiser's running through those 3 officers.
right.
I mean, is that an issue that we're having as far as with maintenance?
Yeah, we do have a rotation right now, and it's by the week. And every week, one of the 3 primary line cars comes up to the top. And so that's the first one to go out on a shift. If the overlap officer comes in, they grab the next one, and they rotate that way. You can put officers into groups and then assign them a particular car. And that's also a variation of it. It doesn't achieve the same rotation that just rotating the cars through the patrol force does. Like right now, for example, this particular week, 6C is the car route, 6B is the secondary, and then 10A is the third. And then next week, 10A comes to the top. And that's how we've been rotating them. In 2008, when we got those 6s, the 6B and C by November both had between 16 and 18,000, which is what we wanted to achieve. They were kind of moving up in mileage together. And I pulled the records from 2008 on mileage to see if we kind of kept that consistent with those 2 cars, and we have. They're still pretty close to each other.
But if you look last year, Chief, 10 had more mileage than 6A or 6B and 6C combined. If you look at the mileage in what we have in front of us.
Yeah.
30-some thousand miles was put on 10 last year. I think 38,000 miles.
And the 10 actually, from the minute we got it, that car actually went into the rotation where it wasn't used all the time. I mean, they typically average between 40 and 45,000 a year if you use it. If the car doesn't get rotated, it just goes out to patrol, and it gets used all the time. What we did was try to stagger it so that before it would hit that mileage, it was a year and a half or 2 years out, rather than all at once. The old system, I guess, was every time a new car came in, that would go in and become primary car, and within 2 years it would have 90,000, and that's something I didn't want to do. Try and spread it out over 2 or 3 years all at once. So, we do rotate them, and if there's a car down for an accident or like a car down with a transmission issue for a month, that comes out of the rotation, so it starts to put more of a load on the other ones. The 3 primary line cars have the MDTs and have the radars and have the in-car video, which is real important for a lot of reasons, officer safety, and also it's some risk management, liability protection if you have in-car video. And so
And what three cars are those two?
the 10A, the 6E, and the 6C, those are the cars that are fully equipped with everything. If you were to, like, say, take the 4A and put that out as a primary car, it wouldn't have the camera, it wouldn't have the MOT. It wouldn't have...
Chief, how many miles do you normally, how many miles is it estimated that you get out of a police vehicle over its lifetime?
Right now, we're averaging between 130 and 140,000. Really try to take care of them. I think one of the things that agencies have run into is if they sit for extended periods of time, the exhaust system will rust out and the frame will rust out, and the body will actually break down before the engine does. But
All right, so you've got 130, 140,000 for a lifetime on vehicles. And you were saying that you put how many miles per year on a vehicle?
if they're rotated, you're going to be about 25 to 30. If they're not, you're going to be somewhere around 40 or 45, depending on the rotation over the year.
So looking at those numbers, those types of numbers, and the lifetime of your vehicles, you've got eight vehicles. That's a lot of vehicles that within the next year will reach their lifetime. How is the town of Tilton supposed to absorb the cost of replacing 8 vehicles within 2 years?
That's why when they get to the, a lot of these older cars, they've done their time as primary vehicle. We slow them down so that, to maybe put 10,000 on that car that's just going back and forth to court and occasionally to the jail.
Yeah, but you've got 8 vehicles.
Yeah.
We don't have 8 years to revolve these vehicles.
In 2007, I'm told they didn't do any, and then also this year we did the expedition, but 2009 we didn't do anything. So if we skip a year, it just makes it that much harder to try and keep up with the mileage as it goes up. The cars that right now we're using as secondary cars are the 4, the detectives' cars, and also the 6A. Those ones where they're not getting used out as primary cars on patrol, they're going to last 2 or 3 years longer than you typically would if you had them out there as frontline cars. So some people have said, hey, could you take the 4A and put that out there as a primary car? Well, you could, but you can extremely shorten the life of it. And also, that's the car that's going to be most susceptible to high vehicle maintenance if you start to put that load on it. So as long as it's just going back and forth to court or back...
I know, but we don't have that leisure here necessarily with all these cars aging out within the next couple of years.
But,
So,
I mean, a car may have 130,000 miles on it, but if it's properly maintained and that engine is still running fine, why has it reached its lifetime?
I mean, it doesn't have to. So as long as we take care of it, get the oil changed, you're right, we can pass those numbers.
My other question is, we really don't have that many miles of roads in the town of Tilton. I'm sitting here trying to add them up. I think there's like 35 Class 2, there's some town roads, and of course Route 311, which always makes me nuts. To me, the state police should be patrolling that, but that's about 11 miles. How many, 30,000 is the average miles per vehicle. 3 patrol vehicles, that's about 90,000 miles a year. That's a lot of patrolling. So I'm sitting here wondering, where do those cars go?
Yeah, well, that and the calls for service. It's not just patrolling there.
Yeah, but still, a call for service, this is a small, we're 11 miles from one end to the other, and that's our longest. I think it's 11.2 from Franklin to the Belmont border. So a call for service I mean, I can't think of anything further, you know. going to-
This is going to be, between the maintenance on them as they age, you'll need more maintenance on them, between them aging out, just naturally aging out, and because there's so many of them, it certainly did not help buying 3 vehicles all at one time in that year, because they're all together. Aging, I think this is something that's, that as a budget committee, as the chief of the department, as selectmen, that it's going to have to really be watched so that the town can absorb the cost of replacing these, keeping our police force safe out there on the roads, keeping other drivers out there safe, because you don't want one of these vehicles to fail while it's out there driving, and also managing the overhead, the cost of the repairs and the cost of actually making the new purchases over the next few years. So something for all of us to keep in mind, because this, we're talking $30,000, close to $30,000 for a fully outfitted, wasn't it 28 this last time? So close to $30,000 for each vehicle at current cost to replace them.
I think one of the killers that I have a problem with is on details, when I see one of the 6 cars, the 6B or 6C on a detail, because the idling kills the car like that, especially on this heat when it's 95 degrees and they got the air conditioner running, the car sitting there with the hood just barely up. I mean, that's baking the engine right there on the highway. And you can look at the mileage, but it's the hours. How many hours have these cars been sitting out on details idling is the killer of the car. Then it's not how many you're changing your oil every so many miles, it's how many hours you're putting on when you're changing your oil, because you're breaking down the oil with the heat. And I think that is a killer within the fleet when you end up seeing your frontline vehicles, as you said, your 6B, your 6C are made to make your front patrol because they have certain equipment in it. And when you see those, and I've seen them on details, because they have the numbers by the front wheel. When you see that should never, I don't feel that should ever happen. That one of our main frontline cruisers should be out there running a detail. I just don't think I don't think that's a wise use of the vehicle.
They don't typically get used. For the 6C to be out there on a detail, it would have to meant that the 4 was down or the 5 was down for service. But they're told to take the 2004, 2005, those are the detail cars. Those go out first.
But at the same time, you had the 5 sets at the school every day, because the school resource officer takes it. The 4 was being taken to the courts for the prosecutor. Right. And I saw it right on our water job many times. Drove right by. There was the 6B or 6C sitting there, running a detail. So it was sitting there all day. But I think that's that's harder probably on a cruiser, as hard on a cruiser as anything you're going to do with it.
Why do they leave the car running on a detail? That officer is subcontracted out basically to another organization, not the town of Tilton. He's not a patrol person that day, so why is that cruiser sitting there running?
If you ran all the equipment, the lights and all that stuff, typically it would draw the battery down and kill it. So to keep the radio on, keep the lights on, they run it.
But don't they have the radio on their shoulder?
Yeah, they do, but
And he's not. He's basically not.
Everything's kind of wired into one master switch like a fire truck. And so, I was just talking to the lieutenant about this the other day. They're starting to make new lights now that draw less and less energy while they run, to the point where they should be separated out from the master switch, so that you can actually run the lights and not have to run the vehicle. And that's where we're going. The motorcycle's already that way, where you don't need to run the engine or the lights because they draw very little power. So, from this point forward, when we have vehicles wired, we're going to separate that so vehicles don't have to run. Proactive way to go.
I saw the new vehicle parked for over 30 minutes as for a special event with the engine running and the air conditioning running, and I assume that an expedition takes a lot of fuel. Is that correct? I wonder why that would take place. Why would that have happened?
What was the event?
It was a fundraiser for the boys' club, I believe, the Special Olympics.
Oh, at Irving?
Yes, at Irving. And the expedition was parked there, and it may have been running longer. I know that I went to Home Depot, was there for a while, and I'm guesstimating it was about half an hour. It could have been longer than half an hour. It was at least half an hour. I came back, the car was still sitting in the same position, and the engine was still running. Why would that have been happened?
It doesn't need to. They didn't have any lights on. I'm not sure. I can check into it.
What is the new vehicle being used for?
Just for supervisor use only. And so, it's not being used as a mainline patrol, but just for supervisors to use. We've also been using it for backstreet patrols with all these burglaries.
Okay. Now, how long have we had that? 4 weeks? A month?
A little bit over.
How many miles do we have on that?
1,600.
Alrighty, there are other lines. I mean, overall, the totals for the police department show that, you're under budget. At this point, we're looking at, about 58% done, being at the end of July here. You're at 54, almost 55% done. It's really close. And there are a bunch of line items other than the vehicle maintenance and the overtime lines that are over budget. I'd rather see everything running at budget or below, especially, with today's economy, with this, just as if, as much money as the town can save, I'd like to see the town saving money. It's just the way that I am.
Tony, I have a question. Chief, why is there expenses against a holiday pay on every week? On here, there's, every week, it's 7/11, 7/13, 7/18, 8/1. There's holiday pay being paid out. And I wonder why. Well, showing it here, it gets paid out every week.
Isn't there a situation whereby they can take a holiday other than on the holiday?
A floating holiday?
If they work the holiday.
We choose to bank that pay for the holiday. Those that don't work the holiday,
What do you mean by bank it, Pat? I don't...
they can take a look at the time.
Take the pay, you mean?
Yes.
And what advantage is, what advantage is that? Is it because of what they take out of them, you mean? Is a lesser rate because they haven't made, is that why, or? I don't understand the reasoning behind it.
Normally, like with us at the state, we have a couple of floating holidays. They're holidays that we work. Columbus Day is one of them, but we're given a day that we can take off at any time. It's considered to be a floating holiday, and you can use that at any time. It's the way.
So this is paid back to them.
They work that
took time
day.
off later on.
Right, they
They're not
work.
getting additional pay.
Right.
Saying they see, okay, I see.
The officers will probably work 4th of July. I'm looking at the...
If not, they have the option, if they work it, not to get the extra pay, but to take the bank holiday
Okay.
another day.
So that's why we're having monies paid out, shows here about, well, two of them are the same, and that's what really, 173.12, 173.12.
There were two offices, one took a bank holiday that actually had one in February, but took one recently in June.
I hate air conditioning. I hate air conditioning.
Now, do they have to take it within a certain time frame? Within that year, budget year? Okay. Okay, that clarifies that. The other question I had was on the gasoline line is way up. It's up to 73%. I think it was where I was looking at it here. the gasoline. You only have $6,000 left in your gasoline budget.
The spike for us is the summertime. We're probably about 3 weeks away, and we saw, I think, between the beginning of the year and now, about a 48%, 48 cents increase in the fuel compared to what we were paying in the spring. So
You don't think you're going to be short then?
no, because in the fall it actually starts to slow right down. Having the extra officers out for Bike Week, NASCAR, and World Run, those types of things, you're going to use more.
Our summer population is going.
And then in the fall, it slows right down again.
Are we going back to the part-time wage line, are we actually saving any money? That was proposed to us that it was going to be a money saver, having more part-time officers. And I see that we started out with 10,000 in the part-time wage line. It was increased to 25, and it's the 25 is now 85% spent. And I also look at the overtime line, and we're at 63% spent on the overtime line. I thought it was presented to us that it would be a money saver as far as on the overtime line, and I don't see that. We seem to be running right about.
Well, the first year you're going to have a spike because you're training them, and even though they come certified, they have to go through an FTO process with any agency. So when they came to us, they had to go through that process. So there's that training spike. Then you get into like year 2 and 3, they don't need that.
They would do 6 weeks of training each.
Insurgence of training. You don't need that in year 2. So I knew that would inflate the numbers. Long term, I think having flexible officers that are trained and can work will.
So what do you think out of the $22,000 or 21,000 some change you've spent so far? Out of that, what was it to train you say 3 officers? 3 part-time officers? What did it take out of that amount of money to train them, Chief?
You're probably gonna put roughly about 24 to 32 hours a week into them for 6 weeks. Once they get trained up, then you can use them on an as-needed basis.
So you're looking at around $4,000 per officer?
The PD overtime?
We have been battling with the overtime issue for quite a long time, and we brought the issue before the chief on several occasions to, there's some officers working 10-hour shifts and some officers working 5-8-hour shifts. And when the officer took them off, and he was working a 10-hour shift, they did not fill the 10-hour shift, they filled whatever was necessary overlap. It was still a considerable amount of overtime. We recently mandated the chief to go all 8-hour shifts, 5-8-hour shifts for all officers. And originally, we had made a motion back in June. There was some discussion, and we, with the union, and we delayed it a little bit, and it was effective April, August 1st. And we were running roughly an average of 18 to 24 hours in overtime this year for a number of different various reasons. But this week, our overtime was 7.5 hours, and that was for an incident of the month that last month.
Because of the 8-hour shift, you're saying?
Well, we're hoping
Or it's
that's...
a reflection?
We're hoping that's going to make a difference. It's difficult to control the overtime in the past because of the union contract. If someone calls out, that opportunity to work has to go through all the unioned officers first. So if somebody's got 40 hours already, or 45 hours, and says, yeah, I'll work it, they're going to work that shift on overtime hours. And we can't use a part-timer to fill that slot unless everybody declines it, and they're the only ones left.
And that's the union that?
That's the union agreement.
If the schedule is more dispersed, you more apt to have officers on duty, and someone calls out, you have to force pay.
With the 10-hour shifts,
How do you cover a 24-hour shift with 10-hour shifts? Because you cover 24 hours a day, but with 10-hour shifts, how do you?
because it was a combination of 10 and 8. It wasn't, they weren't all 10-hour shifts, it was a combination of 10 and 8s. But if you have officers, I mean, with a 10-hour shift, in 4 days, you've got 40 hours. So it's more likely to accumulate overtime.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody's more likely, if they've got 3 days off, to say, yeah, I'll work that third day on overtime, I'm still gonna have 2 days off. But with the 8-hour shifts, now in 4 days, they're only gonna have 32 hours unless there's an incident and they did get some overtime, theoretically.
You can't go to part-time.
Yep.
You have to go on union contract.
Yep.
First process here. This is first, if they're available, not available, anything else.
So it's not as cut and dry as what I thought it was, meaning when we brought the part-time officers, we were talking about it was going to cut down the overtime because they would be able to be brought in and take care of a shift if there was...
Well, there's,
They can be scheduled
they could be scheduled.
creatively in such a way
That makes it different if they're scheduled?
hopefully,
If they're already there, you don't have to call them in.
right,
So you're talking about if an officer calls in sick,
yep.
and then you got to...
Call outs.
Because...
So we'll see. Hopefully the combination of the two now, we'll see.
And
look
the new
to-
contract started in July as well, so the call-outs
Right.
are a little bit different. So you can't,
The what are, Pat?
the call-outs, if they come off, and if you take more than 3 days, if they come off, you have to give them an 8-week notice in order to do that. If you take a week off, you have to keep an 8-week notice.
For scheduling
For
purposes.
scheduling purposes, in order to do a day off, you know, sick day or day off, you know, one day. So it's easier to cover one day, but it's not as easy to cover 3, 4, 5 in a row on the 4 10-hour shifts.
Now, what about a supervisor taking care of that person's shift? Does that, I mean, like you're a lieutenant, you have 2 lieutenants during the day, that never happens either?
Well, they do quite a bit.
But it's the same thing, isn't it? It has to go through the union guys first. If somebody has a call-out, a lieutenant can't just fill that. Doesn't it have to go through the guys first? And they have to decline it, and then a supervisor or a lieutenant, or non-union personnel, let's put it that way, can fill it.
Yeah, if they've exhausted the list, then,
But they got to go through that list first.
So...
unless we have notice, then we can
Yeah.
cast out.
The chief picks up some schedules too.
Yeah, I do too.
The lieutenants do, they all...
I looked at overtime for like the last 5 years to this point in the year, and from like 2009 to this year, we're actually down 4,000 compared to where we were this month in 2009. And we're about average with 3 of the other years I looked at. So,
We'd like to be down around.
right, yeah, I mean, that's
sit
the
anywhere.
plan. But sometimes you have to invest a little to get a little, you know, by bringing these, getting them trained, getting them squared away, and so that they can start to help, hopefully, with more. But
Like, you said you brought on more officers, like with Bike Week and the different World Run or whatever it was called. Is there any money that comes back to the town from any of these organizations that put that on? Detail, but I mean, was this on details or was this on patrols? This was patrols, right?
Just being cautious.
the busy weekends, none of the Lakes Region communities see any extra money for patrols when these things come in. I know that was a problem in Laconia, actually, and they a month before World Run, they weren't getting any extra money from the state to patrol that, and they were really worried about it. And I'm not sure how that all washed out, but where they typically did. But if you look back, 5 years ago in our budget, we actually used to put people on overtime for these weeks or these weekends. And instead this year we used part-time.
We have lines that are, all of them, that are well overspent. Janitorial supplies, I'm not going to worry about the building maintenance, building improvement stuff. We know that that's a lot to do with what you have for building there. New uniforms, is that for the part-timers?
A little bit in jackets. We had the transition into 3 jackets, so that if they're out on the side of the road, that they're visible so they don't get hit by a car. I think it's a combination of that and outfitting the new officers.
Training materials, is at 91%?
Each year, that's, the tuition costs and the training that we send them to each year was done for training, anything tuition-based for the rest of the year. So some lines might jump up to 80 or 90% now, but then they freeze for the rest of the year.
Like the radio communications, that should be all set. Did you get all the radios that you were supposed to be getting?
Yeah, this year it's been mostly maintenance and more so than getting new radios. We didn't have to buy any new ones. We had a lot of issues with the repeater and the radios, trying to get the communications piece down because officers kept telling me they had dead spots throughout town, and so we kept trying to find. A lot of the antennas needed to be replaced this year, and some of the radios had to be reprogrammed. Also, this is the year that all agencies, police, fire, EMS, highway, everyone has to go narrowband this year, so we had all our radios programmed.
Does anybody else have anything that they've seen jump out at them from the PD?
On office supplies, what's the First National Bank Omaha Tech 73 GB SCSI? Yeah, but I'm just wondering what that expense was, $328.15. It doesn't say office supplies, it says something else there, and I don't know if that's a bunch of 73 GB SCSI. SFT.
73
Page 15.
gigabytes, partitions, something?
Oh, that's...
Tech, was there a tech problem?
Yeah, that was the server. The server ran out of memory and actually went down. And Merrick called me and he said, once we added that memory, it wasn't gonna run at all.
Is that the same on, I see this, and I've asked this question before, that First National Bank Omaha, that's the credit card you said?
Right.
We issued one to Joyce and one
Dennis?
to Dennis.
What's the date of the expense?
627.
Page 15. $6/27/2011. Because I also have an expense on that same day underneath the gasoline line, and I'm wondering, I thought we bought our gas down to Northfield, down to the pumps. I see that's the first
The
bank.
only time is if if it was, the vehicle was at training or somewhere.
It's $195.85, $196.85, pardon me. So that's more than one fill-up.
We can hope.
That's probably
It's a month's worth.
Yeah, that might have been training. But usually Lisa charges that through fuel.
Well, that's what it's
If
under
they-
gasoline.
Yeah, if it's gas, they would charge it too.
Get reimbursed for mileage? Is that what, for the trip down to?
No, not for mileage. Some trainings are fully reimbursed if it's drug-related, anything to do with drug training, those are all reimbursed, or it's covered with drug forfeiture. Other types of training will reimburse the officer mileage or have them take a cruiser. And first choice is always a car.
Are you okay?
Yeah, sure, no problem. We went over backwards.
Also, Chief, what was,
Can we hold up and let him just, he was still looking for the breakdown on the, I don't want to get him too confused. Looking for the breakdown on the tech? Is that what you were looking for first?
Yeah, and
I mean, I think you've explained it adequately if it's the,
if it's
you know,
a server?
if it's the server expense.
I mean, I'm fine with that if it's a
every
server.
once in a while I'll get
I couldn't understand the explanation that was put out there. If it's a server, that's understandable. There was also an expense on that credit card too. It said FBI dues. What was that for $215?
That's actually the cost of becoming part of the association that sponsored the training, and basically all the training was paid for, but you have to become a member of the association to go. And that covered books and materials, that sort of stuff over there. So it was kind of like, we're letting you have all this free training, but you have to join the association, and that's going to cover some of the things we provide you this year.
So that's what that was, FBI dues.
Grants getting fewer and farther between. We've spent like $5,000 going after them. Got nothing back yet.
Yeah, not the highway safety. They're still out. We haven't heard of anything in Concord where they're cutting that yet. I think they're still worried about safety on the roads, you know, and that's the one grant that we haven't seen eliminated. A lot of the other ones have.
It's going.
Along.
What is the expense on the grants? Does it cost us money to apply for those, or?
No. And all the agencies do them, participate in them. And basically, they're paying to put officers out there for, like this year, it was distracted driving was the big push, where they were trying to eliminate texting and driving. You know, a lot of erratic operation complaints that aren't related to alcohol, but more people on their cell phones, that sort of stuff. And so they shifted some of the grant money this year from Click It or Ticket to distracted driving because they were getting so many complaints and they started driving the accidents up. And so,
I guess my question was, on the grant expense, it says $4,827. What's the cost? Is that the cost of going after the grant, or is that?
no, that's the reimbursed amount. So that's what we submit bills for to the state.
But we haven't gotten anything back in yet from them. You've gone out and spent this money because you're due back a grant.
Yeah.
Is that?
They do direct deposit into the town's accounts. So
I know, but there's nothing reflected yet here in revenue, under the revenue line, there's nothing for
yeah.
police grants.
Right.
Yeah.
But you've submitted
We have
those
submitted the bills, yeah.
to them, and so you are expecting to have,
That amount reimbursed.
Does anybody have anything else for the chief? No? Oh, come on, we can't, I think that we could come up with something else for him. He's been doing so well.
I just know that there's a rash of people
second
breaking into homes around, there's no question about that.
I know we're not going to be looking at a new police station right at this moment. There's some added expenses to keep that one going, or refurbish or something like that.
We have huge expenses to keep that one going.
Oh, we going to address that? Is that going to be in this
We
year's
haven't
budget, or?
We have, it's going to have to be done this year. It's not going to come out of the budget because it's not in the budget. But we're forced to make these repairs, if you will, because of our insurance adjuster and the Department of Labor. Because of the shortcomings in the building that we did a poor job explaining to the voters on why we need a new one. Pardon?
What kind of money are we talking about?
Where are we at so far? About 30?
We have the first phase, just
Yeah.
the 9 phases, 20,000.
And we haven't addressed the
We haven't-
basement issues, and I'm thinking probably anywhere from 30 to 50,000 to spend on a building that we know is too small for us. But
Is that building still generating income?
Pardon?
Is that building still generating income?
61? Yes, there are tenants in there.
Enough to
And
offset,
it's
some of these expenses?
It's
or-
offsetting, electricity and gas and that kind of thing.
The building expenses itself.
Pardon?
The 61 Business Park Drive expenses itself.
Yeah. It's offsetting those. It definitely isn't paying us our mortgage payment, or I should say the bond payment, but it's offsetting some of the typical utilities and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I have one other question, I guess, it triggered when you mentioned that. I was told that Guilford uses a trailer to store their evidence. Is that true, Chief? Do you know? I was told that they're using a trailer, one of these storage trailers, and they're actually outside their building and they're storing evidence to make more room for them inside. Because I think they've been going through the same thing.
Ours is inside 61 Business Park.
But I'm just saying that, why is ours inside if they're using
More
theirs
secure.
outside? More secure?
Right, but it's not inside this building, it's inside 61.
It's inside 61 Business Park Drive, and 61 Business Park Drive is wired, cameras, burglar alarmed. It's much more secure than outside. Can't have tainted evidence.
PD, there's no room to put it. There's a huge traffic issue there coming in, even if you try to visit the station.
What do we do in the event of a fire, though? I mean, are we more liable with it inside in the event of a fire up there, seeing that building is not sprinkled?
You already have an evidence room inside the existing police station.
So what's kept in there as far as evidence, and I'd ask you?
Bulk
Big
evidence,
stuff.
Big stuff.
Larger.
Boats, big stuff.
Larger equipment. Runs.
This summer, we had some kayaks stolen. These things were like 20 feet long. We asked the court if we could return them to the owners pending the case. The court said as long as you get the defendant and his attorney to approve it. So then we went to the defendant and his attorney and said, can we give back the evidence to the owners? They said no. And then the judge said, well, then you're going to have to hold on to it.
It's crazy.
Huge kayaks. And so that's what's...
I had heard that through the grapevine, that they were, because it's been in the paper a couple times, that they've been back and forth on putting a new public works or public safety building up there. So I had heard through the grapevine that was one of the ways they were alleviating some of the space issues, was using a trailer outside their building to store evidence or store, I guess, those items in.
No, we're using 61 Business Park Drive for police stuff.
I think when you put it outside also, it's subject to deterioration from the elements because those trailers aren't heated. Some of them leak.
Overheated.
Yeah, are they overheated?
It's like an oven.
So I think that would, work against what we're trying to do by keeping it secure. secured in that respect.
I think the chief is ready to get out of here.
He's trying.
There's no other questions? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, financial report review is the next item on the agenda.
No one can ask any questions. You don't have anybody to ask questions of.
No, we don't. But we do have Kathy here, if there are anything that jumps out that we can...
The only one I see, the one that struck me most notably, is on page 9
In the detail or the
in the
expenditures?
expenditures. It's the second line down, health officer miscellaneous expenses. Hey, obviously something startling has happened.
Come on!
That's, would you like to ask the health officer?
Well, I mean,
Yes,
it's
that
just,
did jump out at me as well. It's on the top of the exception
We had an
report.
unusual situation this year. Actually, it's the first time I've run across it as health officer. We had a septic system failure in Lockmere, and it obviously had been going on under the snow through the winter. And it was this close to running into a little tributary that runs into Silver Lake. The homeowner was going through some horrible financial situations with their mortgage holder and could not afford, there just wasn't any money to fix it. So the town, under the RSAs, there is a 147 that allows the municipality to spend the monies to repair the system. There's a process you go through. It's a very interesting process. Basically, the town paid to have it corrected. They have 30 days to contest the billing. We did something wrong, or it wasn't repaired, and then they have 30 days to pay it.
what happens if they don't?
They don't pay it in 30 days. It's attached as a lien to their property as taxes, and has the same exact
So they'll just get on their tax?
interest. They don't pay it, you end up owning their home, blah, blah, blah. But these people have already paid over $600 towards it. Their intent is to pay it without having a lien on their property, so.
Do they sign any documentation, Catherine, before that happens, or is there any documentation from the homeowner?
There's a lot of paperwork, certified letters. The final billing was civilly delivered to them, so, you know.
So they know what the cost is
Oh, yeah, yeah.
before it actually happens, or is there like an estimate?
They knew
that-
before. I was in contact with them, they were in contact with me, and I had Attorney Chandler assisted me to make sure that all the i's were dotted and t's crossed, and we made no mistakes. But as I said, the homeowner's intent is to pay this off. I think they will,
9, that's what I'm looking for.
It is page 9.
but that's what it was.
So when they pay it off, there's no
Oh,
interest
page
to
9
get
for them.
charged then, right? It's just,
Yeah, if it goes over the 30 days, yeah,
but if they pay it off in that 30-day span, there's no...
right.
I'm happy.
So they're attempting to pay it without
But
the
they're
lien.
paying, there's, you know, there's other fees, but besides the hookup, there's your attorney fees, the fees for the civil delivery and certified mailings, so they'll pay.
So there's additional fees other than just the...
It's not just the hookup, the contractor hooked it up, that includes attorney's fees, basically every expense that I could think of that was incurred on that project. And they got an itemized bill.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Thank you for saving
I'll throw
the
out my
river.
other one too there, Tony, if I can.
You go right ahead.
The question about, and I brought this up to June, I still don't understand the dog licenses, how we still haven't got $1,000 collected on that. We're still,
Cindy would have to explain it to you in much more detail than I can, but after a certain amount of time, there's a fine, and then so much a month, it's quite a bill.
And then the police
And the
show up your
police
door
show up in
and
your door.
arrest
You
you.
mentioned it last time.
Please show up in your door, knock, knock, you need to pay this.
The police show up at your door for your dog license?
Yeah.
They will arrest you.
They will arrest you.
They can arrest you.
my
Not the dog,
husband.
just you.
You can be
the
ordered to
dog's free.
court.
Does
dog laughed.
that seem draconian to anybody else?
Well, it's just to me, we're enforcing a state law. It has to do with rabies,
I understand.
which is why you license,
But you don't need a cat license, and they're more so prone to rabies than dogs are.
I know, and cats are required to
Not
have
yet.
rabies, but
But no license.
license.
Nobody
But
checks
yes,
it.
it's a state law we're enforcing.
Yeah, so when you're on your first few dates with
So
your,
there are,
and the cops come and take you away.
yeah.
And the dog just sits there. Where's he going?
She was a good puppy.
Right.
What I always find
As
interesting
long
is
as nobody
those
checks
people
her,
that come in
if I
after the due
remember to
date,
put it on the collar, then
they
we're
get hit
okay.
with a
Got
fine
the
and a
license.
surprise.
Well, I was
Remember
just
to put it
wondering,
on 'em.
because there was an article in the paper the other day about, I think it was yesterday, about, the animal shelters are being overwhelmed because of the economy. And people are just abandoning
their
their
dogs.
pets, you know.
To that extent, though, from 5,400 to 1,000, I mean, that does seem extreme.
I just thought that might be one of, before I brought it up, and I still wondered if that's part of the scenario, what we're up against. People just.
But are you looking at page 2 on the expenditures?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's really all the forms, and, the noticing that has to be done.
Printing and stuff.
But because so many people don't, you do a mailing, our town clerk probably does more noticing to people than she has to. I know she does, but it's just to keep them informed and try to get them to come in here without having to pay that fine.
Yeah, there was a thing in the paper of some town, I can't remember which one, they just stopped sending the notices. You still have, you get the fine and everything, but you don't get a renewal notice.
You get surprised.
Yeah, and I mean, I know, because I'm an idiot, and I would forget to, if I didn't get my little notice in the mail.
She tries to not let people get surprised. It's also more pleasant for our police when they knock on their door, they expect it.
On the revenue side, is the haulers, are they coming in at a higher rate than what they have been in the past? I noticed this last month is 20,000, over to almost 21,000, which would be 240,000 plus for the year if you go. It seems like we're at almost 70%.
We have to ask Joyce, but it might be just, I don't know. We have, how are you seeing the estimated revenues month-to-date, year-to-date balance? I could make some guesses.
I mean, we're running close to 20,000, we're 130,000 with 7 months, which would be 140 if we were at 20,000, so.
That's all right, if they want to.
Well, they're busier.
Bring in
No,
more
no,
income,
that's-
I'll take
that's
it.
fine.
I don't complain about
But
that
you may
one
see
being up.
that, you may see that drop off in the fall.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is
What is?
wildlife treatment? Is 9 Grange,
Oh, that's the flying squirrels, I
We had
think.
flying squirrels and
Oh, from the
rodents. It
Grange.
was unbelievable.
Flying everywhere?
Yeah, well, let's just say they left trails of goo all through the building. It was pretty disgusting.
Inside the building?
Yes.
They found it, wasn't it, it was a huge
Huge
nest
nest.
when they took the ceiling down in the kitchen when they were renovating. They had to go in with shovels.
Oh,
Yikes.
I'm glad I wasn't there.
Should have called Billy the Exterminator.
So that's
Yeah.
squirrels?
Flying squirrels.
Flying squirrels.
Flying.
So they're like the little red squirrel then, right?
It's a difference, I think. Red squirrels tear up your attic and eat things, but I don't think they leave messes or feel nest.
Yeah.
They're
Because the
cute.
red squirrel will make a big nest in an attic if he can't get in there.
Oh, we had those
I
when
think
we
this
moved
was
in our house.
population explosion.
You asked, now you know.
Yeah. The other thing, let's see, the range expenses were only 24%. Now, we've begun the renovations on that. Did that go out to bid?
Yes.
We got 3 bids on that?
We got more than 3, didn't we?
Who's doing the work?
Yeah, I was just going to say, he's got to stop donating, because he's going to be losing money.
I see the electricity's pretty good there, $14.45 for electricity. Oh, there isn't any.
One bulb. I don't understand on the revenue side, the school resource officer reimbursement.
I was looking at that. I didn't,
Stating that they paid us $11,000 more, or almost $12,000 more than they're supposed to. If I'm reading this correctly.
well, is my understanding that the chief gave them a new agreement.
I thought there was going to be a new agreement discussed.
Well, it is, but the chief is, in the past, there's been the chief of police that's negotiated that agreement.
Now, you said here...
I don't think he got the memo.
The only ones could enter the town into an agreement is the
Well, I was
select.
just going to tell you, I don't think you got the memo that it's the Board of Selectmen that has to enter into that agreement, but,
So it's a non-binding agreement then?
yeah.
There was also some things that they need
Yeah.
that they didn't realize that were not being billed that got billed. And make sure that they got billed.
Run that by me again, Pat, I didn't
There
quite...
was a few things in there that were not being billed, such as time, was it field trips or something like that?
There's a lot of things that they want the officer to do that spends time over there. Overtime, for example, that wasn't included in the original contract, that's now been included, but it's not a done deal. There are other things that are going to be suggested and happening, and the agreement they have, like you said, it's not signed by the Board of Selectmen, so it's not a, let's just say the school district probably will be surprised very soon.
That they'll be owing more than what we've got here.
Could be,
Baby.
because we haven't, our
That
job.
be a part-time officer's position, that position, as opposed to a full-time, taking a full-time officer that we have on the force and putting him over there for 36 weeks.
Why does there have to be a Tilton police personnel over there at all?
I asked that question many years ago, but I said it
I
fell
would
under
think
the
that we should
jurisdiction of
address
the
that one first before we do, but to answer your question on part-time, there's a law that they only can work a certain amount of hours in a year as a part-time. So you have to be careful with 36 weeks. Part-time is no longer part-time.
Even though he's not getting 40 hours per week? Because the school day is not 40, not...
Well, it actually does, because our school resource officer is generating overtime because they require him to attend athletic events. They want him to create,
And that's in the contract?
yep,
The last one,
And there's only one resource
trips.
officer.
Yeah. Field trips
There's
to
only-
where?
So he has to fill all the role.
yeah.
Where are they going on field trips that they feel like they need police protection?
Isn't there 2 police officers listed on their website as resource officers?
Well, I think he has a backup.
There's,
He has a
I forget her
backup.
name. She's-
Oh, Jennifer Adams, but she is the DARE person.
That's always
and she
fallen on
hasn't
the
worked for
town's
Tilton for
expense?
quite a few years. She was one of our part-timers. She's very nice.
But although we did get reimbursed, if
didn't seem like it.
Yeah, but over the 10 years that that's been running, Sandy, if
We've
you
lost
add up, I
money.
can roughly add up in my head, and it's probably cost the town of Tilton at least $250,000 more than they should have over the 10 years. It's $25,000 plus per year.
Well, that's time to stop.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, it's been,
Well, I mean, doesn't the town have the right to say, sorry, that's not an acceptable use of your school resource officer? I mean, do we have that right? Because it doesn't seem reasonable.
Right, and that's why they're redoing the contract.
That's why they
What would
I have-
happen if we just didn't provide the resource officer?
so getting back to this 11,000
That's where I'm
over, how does that represent, I mean, how did that get in here? Miss Catherine?
What would happen if we just refused to supply the officer? So we
We'd
don't-
save a lot of money, and we wouldn't need another full-timer at the PD.
Or a police car that's sitting there all day.
They would have to get one from another town.
Who would initiate doing that?
They could hire a truant officer. They don't have to have a police officer in that role. They can hire their own truant officer. It would be paid for by the 3 towns, according to the formula. And if they have an arrest, they could call a policeman.
Well, that's what I was going to say. When somebody said, that, you know,
How many
they need,
arrests do
one
we
of the
have?
things he was talking about is the school resource officer needed the cruiser there in case they had to make an arrest. Well, why don't they call a police officer to come bring a cruiser and make an arrest?
You make a suggestion of taking an officer from one of the other surrounding towns that share the responsibility. You still have to swear him in as a police officer.
Because he's physically in Tilton.
Right.
But, you know, I don't know about all of you, but when I was in school, we had our guidance counselors, and if you did something wrong, you got called to the office and you were dealt with.
Correct.
Well, it was the principal's job, or vice principal in our
Vice
case.
principal.
Absolutely.
And there was a
Dan
truant
Stockwell.
officer, if you were goofing off, your truant officer came and jerked you by the collar and pulled you in.
Well, I was an angel, so I wouldn't know about any
Or
of
called the
that.
house and said, where are you? Are you really sick?
But anyway, it seems like those positions have kind of been, you know, all that's been dumped on.
Abdicating responsibility.
Unfortunately, Columbine gave us the role of the school resource officer and having a policeman in there.
Well, I think it's before that, isn't it? I mean, the idea
We had it
behind
before the Columbine.
Inner
We had
cities.
this one here.
Yeah, but the whole idea was to familiarity with
started out
the
as a
police
government
officer,
grant,
seeing him as
fully paid for
non-threatening
3
and not
years.
necessarily an adversarial.
It's just wrong.
That's the thinking behind it, but I don't know that.
It started out as a fully funded federal grant for 3 years.
Right.
And then it fell right
You'd have
onto
to
the
cover all the
taxpayer.
other
It kept right on going.
deities
That was
with
the
me.
problem with it. For 3 years, it was fully paid. But where did this $11,000, almost $12,000 come from extra? That's in the revenue line.
Well, I can tell you,
Chief gave a contract.
overtime, wages weren't in there.
No, but it's saying we've been overpaid what they
Right, the
should have
chief,
been paid.
what they're saying is that the chief gave them a contract, they paid to what the chief gave them, and then they went to them and said, yeah, but the chief can't do that, so we're going to give you another contract, and you're going to owe us some more money. So that's where, is that the synopsis
I
of
mean, he's
that?
just showing you that this is what was estimated, and this is what actually is paid, and it's this much over the estimated.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not an accurate figure anyway, all the way around, because when we're done,
Right, it'll be what it is.
it'll be what it is, exactly.
Exactly. I have a question.
We have to send them money.
What is the status of the Pine Street Bridge?
Well, that's a sort
I had to walk by there again and climb over.
Done?
It's not done because I just climbed over. Okay.
It is, we're back to, we're basically back to square one. We met with construction and older engineer, and they were going to do a collar around it, which was unacceptable to us. We told them to take it away, put in new where it's broken. They are going to replace the box cover on the inlet side where it's broken, and they were going to patch it and realign all of the wing walls.
Right.
And compaction is soon, they're pouring it and casting it. I think that's the term, casting it. So that will take a 2-week process, and then they will let Phillips and myself know when that is ready and cured to be put in, and then Phillips will give us a date of when that will be done. When that work begins, there's less than a week's time, a week and a half at most, the bridge will be drivable.
There are no further costs to the town in regards to this. It's just a matter now of them repairing it at their cost and getting it in here and done. Is that,
Yes, and we're even considering not paying the rest.
I was gonna say, isn't there some, I know when I have an unhappy customer, they get some adjustment.
But that's only if the bridge is not to your satisfaction, right?
Well, it's not.
But I'm saying, if they complete it, then it is, but have we held back monies that we haven't paid?
$34,000 that when built, but he's on 500 for Holden, and there should be 45 for Holden.
We've stopped paying the contractor, and then it's the performance bond.
What's going to be the game plan if in 3 weeks, because we've waited 2 months and nothing's happened, and in 3 weeks, nothing happens again?
No, I think that,
Upstairs.
I think that, the other day, we actually had a meeting over there, and they had us.
Why is he on the road?
They're the ones, they're the ones that offered to replace it and not even listening to our command to replace it. They all knew we brought it up, and they, well, of course, Hills wants to make it good on it. There's no question about it. Holden Hills, and Holden engineer never did anything, never did the supervised thing in this work that was being done, and absolutely treated us never looking at what was going on, and it took Kathy standby on DES on this. Before we got any of the erosion problems figured out, Dennis did that. We built a commercial overhead rate, and we told them we were going to do it. We built it. We got a check the other day from Flex Construction. So it's been an ongoing saga, but I really do believe that definitely wants to make this right and going forward with it. Got everything already in the works, waiting. Fair Point to hold the pole that's sitting there. Everything's waiting to have happen. It's supposed to happen this week, but we disapproved of the plan to put the collar up, a patch, essentially to cover the crack
Cosmetic.
in the box culvert itself. And they could fix the other problems. That was fairly simple on their part. But was the issue. So now they're taking that out, starting over. Everything will be
Do we have a timeline? I mean, do we
3
know?
weeks.
2 weeks after the cast concrete.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Do we know when they're going, about 2 weeks they're going to start that, and what it takes, how long to cure?
Somewhere around the 16th.
Well, they've started casting it
Okay.
already, so it's about 2 weeks, and then, so we should see it about the second week of September to be finished.
Talking to people that are in the concrete business and that have the know-how about that, two of them have told me that the bid, because this company came in so low, was one of the reasons is they did not put in their bid package a crane which is needed to place that properly. So is it going to be a crane? That's exactly, and I think that's where the damage came from.
Correct.
That's exactly the
Setting it in
Well,
with an excavator.
that's some of the
with
cause of the
chains.
damage.
Yeah, but setting it in with an excavator as opposed to a crane. So are they they're not going to try to set this back in with an excavator, I hope?
Well, they know what our feelings are about it now.
Yeah, but I mean, we could be in the same, they could come in and set the plates and try to set the pieces in and cause the same damage.
Well, there is going to be a representative from the town, whether it be one of the selectmen or Dennis, there every day that they're there, so.
Because I don't believe Holden, or the engineer, that's who you said, Holden, I don't believe the credibility for them to be on site is what the paper is written on.
Well, that's what we felt we hoped that we were going to have Dennis visit the site.
At their expense.
Engineering was going to pay Dennis for the time that he spends there, because we don't trust Tilton Engineering.
Now, what impact is that going to be on Dennis and his department? Is it going to be a severe impact?
Well, he wouldn't necessarily have to be there every day. He's just going to be there when we're moving the parts around, setting stuff, and especially like when they put the box culvert into look at the joints and the way they're put together, so that he can see those as they're putting them in. And, we made it known to Holden Engineering that he would be there and that Holden Engineering would pay him for his time, because we don't have anything like that in Holden Engineering.
So,
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
the...
thanks for keeping such a good eye on that.
Have you seen the photographs?
Oh, yeah.
No, I walk by, I walk that way sometimes. It's not pretty. It's not pretty at all down there. Okay, well, thank you for watching over that.
been a huge inconvenience for the residents, that's for sure.
Yeah, I know. I can walk there.
I walk my dog there. Well, I don't now, but I used to.
Does anybody...
The erosion going right into the brook, I mean, that was
Yeah.
uncalled for.
To the beautiful trees, and this is came back, and they have to replace them.
And are perennials?
When you mention someone holding the pole, when they put that in, they never had anybody up there holding the pole.
Yeah, but they have to, or any contractor to work within a certain amount of feet from the pole, they have to have a Fairpoint representative or a subcontractor hold the pole where they do the pole.
Maybe they felt the ground was frozen enough when they were putting it in to hold it.
Well, it makes no sense. They've already disturbed the ground, so, I mean,
There's no ladder in the pole, that's ridiculous.
Because there's no electrical wire crosses there.
Does anybody have any other points or comments about the budget?
I got just a couple. Is Tim expediting payments, am I reading this correct? And on page 10, exception report,
I'm sorry I didn't hear that.
there's a couple of items. Debt interest on long-term bonds is at 99%. And,
Page 10 on the expenditures?
big week.
Page 10, this page 10.
This page.
Oh, the exception report.
How far down?
Well, let's see here. About a third of
20
the way down is
Line 27, is that what you're talking about? Debt principal on long-term
the
borrowing?
line. Yeah, I'm screwed up here.
I think you were looking at
Line 21 and line 27. Those are good things if I'm reading this correctly.
And what is your question?
Is he expediting payments, making payments faster than we need to? Which is a good thing. I mean, paying down debt is great. See, we should have,
Are the bonds paid just semi-annually, or are they paid monthly, the interest on the bonds?
Some are quarterly.
month-to-date expense.
82.
5,000.
Because he's 100% paid on the debt, on the interest, on the long-term
interest,
bond.
yeah. And the other, he paid $43,000 during July.
Did you say we paid something off early?
Well, there's only $39,000 left.
Paid off a tan.
Okay. So that would answer your question, Bob, they did pay off a tan
He
early.
paid up a 10.
Or was it a
No, it's
ban?
great. I mean, it's good if
Tax
we,
anticipation.
I think we paid a ban off.
Ban
good
or
if
ban?
we can do it.
That would explain why it's at 99 or 100% paid.
Perfect. I love to see debt go away. I was going to donate my gains on my 401k this week, but sorry, guys. You're going to have to wait a while on that.
Your gains this week? Yeah, all right, Bob. What kind of investments do you got?
You should have some of what I have. It's good stuff.
Yeah,
I got a gold necklace that my mom just gave me.
exactly.
I'm
That's
going to retire on it in a couple weeks.
Okay. Anything else?
Is that going to come back to, they were talking on the financial news the other night, that could come back to haunt the municipalities, the state and the local municipalities, as far as the lowering of the bond rating.
I think it's money altogether, it becomes more expensive is the idea.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that the lowering of it, of the government's bond rating is going, it's going to trickle down to affect the states and local and county municipal.
That's what they're saying out there, yeah.
Probably will.
Because it'll-
Good. I think we don't really know, really, all of the repercussions.
It depends on your bond rating that you have.
Right. And
Although I
everybody's bond
guess,
rating could be adjusted. because of-
T-bills are actually selling like hotcakes right now.
Yeah, and they're telling people to invest in them too. I heard that today.
Well, the monetary fund bank there, that national fund bank they have over in Europe,
Yeah, the IMF, you mean?
yeah, the IMF, if they have to bail out those countries that they're looking at over there, that's us.
Yeah.
We make up 39% of that.
Yeah.
Where are we going to come up with the money? We don't have money to
It's all,
take care of road bills.
well, go in the back room and write down, well, now we have more money. Our money system doesn't have any basis to it anyway. It's,
We'll just
there's
print
no
more.
there. When you get to the basis of the entire worldwide financial system is based on nothing. I mean, nothing at all. You know, it's.
Okay, I'll make a motion at 8:30 that we adjourn.
I second it.
I fourth it.
I know you're looking down this way. you know.
Excuse me. Can somebody please move the clock ahead 1 minute? I have a motion and a second to adjourn at 8:30. It being 8:29 now. Anybody have their phone on that says that it's 8:30?
Mine does.
My phone is on, you guys know that.
Mine says 8:31.
Okay, we are, we have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? Let's call the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
My clock
Done.
marks in the road. I can't go by that clock.